The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Okay, I don't get exactly why, but last week a caller suggested that for Lewis's last show, we bring in a durian fruit and actually open it up. This is a fruit known for being incredibly stinky, but apparently tastes good and being spiky and difficult to open. So producer Lewis has purchased a durian. He's been defrosting it for something like 24 hours, and he's coming over now with the durian, and it is a little bit rank. He has some plates, and he's going to attempt to... oh, you've already cut it. He's bringing it in. Oh, my goodness. That is absolutely rancid. That is really concerned. Woo! Do you smell that?
Yeah.
It looks like an organ of some kind is in there.
It does. It's pretty repulsive looking.
Lewis... Oh, my God.
Like
something about this looks like the innards of an animal. There's no chance in hell I'm going first with this. I'm just letting everybody know.
Okay.
Are those seeds inside of it? What is that stuff?
Yeah, it's a seed, I think.
That smell is putrid.
Is this going to turn you into meatitarian off the vegetarian diet?
I think most of my food experiences make me think I need to be eating less meat. This is pushing me in the... Are you okay, Rachel?
Yeah.
Let's cut to the wide shot for Rachel's first shot, because I don't want our audience to miss a second of this.
Right.
There she goes. She is biting. 3, 4 bites, 4 chews. Her reaction is not particularly negative. It looks kind of like an omelet.
I wouldn't call it particularly positive either.
I don't know that I can even do this. It really is a very strong smell. Wow. Can you describe the flavor profile, Rachel?
Well, I don't want to ruin it for you if you haven't taken a bite.
It's-
Because then your opinion is going to be colored by my taste buds.
That look, though.
It's starting to smell like something from a body shop that you would have.
It's going to change my gut flora.
Is it good?
I think that this might cause my DNA to be permanently altered.
Oh.
Can you smell that, Jason, from over there? I
No,
think I am
not
not
yet.
going to participate in
You
this.
have
I really don't.
choice.
Oh, I'm going to try it. Can I get some, Lewis?
Lewis, you
Yeah.
want to bring a piece over to
Yeah.
to Jason first while we discuss what's going on?
It kind of tastes like rotten pineapple a little bit.
It certainly smells like something rotten. That's for sure.
That was my initial reaction on smelling it through the
Yeah,
fruit. I
rotten
thought pineapple, but rotten didn't get that quite yet.
Yeah.
I might have to leave the room, guys. This
David.
is not good. Wow.
Here we go.
This is just
Does
insane.
yours still have ice on it?
I don't know what mine has. It's really bad. Let's go now to Jason. I will narrate, Jason. Don't worry. Jason now has it. He has a fork. He is
I'm so
smelling it
excited.
very closely, and his reaction
It's
is...
got that umami kind of that bitter smell, but I really like bitter things, so I feel like this might be a winner for me.
It's
Lu-
definitely like a custard type texture. It's like a
It doesn't look like a pineapple. It looks more like like a custard or maybe like an
Here we go.
avocado.
or an
almost.
omelet, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, it does.
Could be used. in
Jason's
desserts.
going in, and he is chewing.
I like it. It's very sweet.
Yeah,
I
it's
like
got
it.
it's got that sweet little. I don't want to say fishy, but some kind of odd bitterness there.
If the fruit smells like fish or tastes like fish, it's probably not a good thing.
I like it.
I approve. It's definitely it's got that.
You know the aftertaste.
Yeah, the bitterness lingers a little bit.
It's very hard to describe.
Hey, could we switch to Rachel real quick? Hers seems to be a consistency that you really don't want. Could you pick that up again? It seems to be stretching.
It's kind of Play-Doh-esque. Like I imagine a kid somewhere would just love to have this on his dinner plate and just play with it.
You're having another bite?
Wow, that's actually pretty good.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
going to try just the smallest bite here. Let me first just... Is this flan? I feel like Lewis made a flan and brought it in under the pretense of being a durian.
I made 4 flans and hid them inside a hollowed out durian.
Let's see. I'm starting with just licking it.
Come on, you get a full bite all in.
No, I'm kind of getting a headache now.
This is really not good.
I think it's good.
I'm getting a headache, but I'm still eating it.
I mean,
it's just a mental hurdle. This is good.
Okay. I think I'm good, guys.
Really?
Yeah.
We're not stopping over here. We're going for it.
Okay.
I mean, I like it, but this thing costs $16, so
That's the craziest part. We've allocated 2 more minutes for this experiment. So if anything crazy is going to happen,
if anyone's head is going to explode.
yeah.
I am getting a headache.
Are you really? Like the fruit is causing you to have a headache?
I think so.
It's
That's
because
really
it's so
odd.
good you're having withdrawals 5 seconds later.
It's not like a cold headache, is it? Because this thing was frozen.
No. Mine's about room temperature now.
I don't want to alarm anybody, but I think that the durian just moved.
Just because you poked it and it moved doesn't mean it's alive.
We're all
Yeah.
going to survive. We're all going to be fine. This is delicious. I have to say,
What
I've
country?
never had anything like this.
What country is this native to?
That's a great question. I don't know. Nowhere in this continent, I'm pretty sure.
I see it being in New Zealand, maybe Australia. They have a lot of interesting fruits down there.
But then why would it be so common in Asian markets? By the way, please switch to Rachel. She's eating the entire thing.
Yeah. If it's giving you a headache, why are you going to town on it?
I can't stop.
It's good.
Is there something about the flavor that you like? And by all means, feel free to chew your food before.
It's an interesting sensory experience because you're
and you want to be right up on that, Mike.
You're kind of having a dissociation between kind of the visceral and your mind.
Oh, it's
So-
definitely a dissociative experience.
Yeah, and it's kind of I don't really have a framework of the taste, so I'm struggling to figure out the right words to describe it while
Yeah.
simultaneously eating it while simultaneously getting a headache.
I'm struggling too.
So
I think
the outside, see, now I'm getting to a point where it's like the inside here tastes different, and it's not as good as the outside that I was eating before. So I'm going to stop.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think this
Man.
kind of has that mushroom thing where it has not only the texture, the smell, but then it has this flavor that they're all on very different planes, and
Yeah.
them coming together is a hard experience.
This is certain. Is your pulse doing? Rachel Gordon is taking her pulse, which generally after you try a new food, if you see someone taking their pulse, it's not the best sign.
You're not
you know?
breaking out in hives or anything. Should we call an ambulance?
In other news today, a girl died in a talk show after eating a durian.
That's a conversation for another time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I mean, this has absolutely been fascinating. And that, I think, is something that I want to say today. Yeah, we will have a problem because soon I think building management is going to show up and have a real serious conversation with us about what it is that we're doing. Lewis, I want to let you sort of sum up this experiment since it was, I guess, in some way related to you.
We were seeking knowledge, and
We have achieved it.
and we have achieved that. Now we know about durian. We have clarity this evening. I enjoyed it, and I perhaps in the future we'll just stick to trying to find a frozen pre-cut durian.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would.
That thing
You
is-
once mentioned you had a durian freeze pop or ice cream bar.
Oh, delicious!
Hey, you know what, guys? I think I'm getting a headache too.
Actually?
Yeah.
It's not just me.
And I'm
Thank
feeling
goodness.
somewhat lightheaded.
Wait, same.
You are also?
Yes.
We're going to go to break. And yeah, it's Lewis's last show. And if the medical authorities don't show up, having trouble swallowing.
Calling Donald Trump's doctor.
Is it psychosomatic that I'm having trouble swallowing?
I feel fine.
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
All
they're
right, good.
fine.
Well, you guys aren't inhaling all of these fumes over here.
Yeah.
Well,
There could-
I'll move that stuff away in a second.
All right,
could
we
be-
will take a break. We do have 2 Lewis compilations coming up later. You're not going to want to miss those.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Today's new member of the day is Cody McGeshik. Cody, thank you so much for being a David Pakman Show member. We only exist because our viewers support us through membership. Please sign up at davidpakman.com/membership. Lewis, I don't know about you, but I think we should take some calls. The number is 617-830-4750. Name and town. Who is joining us first today?
Don Hammond,
Don, where are you calling from?
from Peggs, Oklahoma.
And what can we do for you today?
Well, I was wondering, I lived in Chicago part of my life and the rest in Oklahoma. I've witnessed a great deal of violence in my life, and I was wondering how much actual violence have you witnessed, either as an adult or a child? And I would like to ask Lewis the same question and see what the response is.
Very little for me. Really not that much. When we're talking about in-person violence, really very little. I fortunately did not grow up in a violent household, and really other than just basically street fights and school fights and fights on the streets of Austin, Texas, when I went to visit Lewis when he was living there, for example, I really have not witnessed a lot of violence personally. Lewis, what about you?
My answer would be similar, I guess. Mostly just your usual hand-to-hand fights, ranging in intensity, I guess you could say. And I don't believe I've seen incidents with weapons involved.
Yeah.
But I have seen certainly countless bloodied faces and unconscious people. And yeah.
Yeah. The two fights I've been in go back to, I believe, 4th and 6th grade. 4th grade involved someone throwing a football at my face point blank and then me kicking the person. And then in 6th grade, there was like basically a simultaneous punch in the jaw with very big winter gloves on. Since I grew up in Massachusetts, so at recess, you had to wear thick winter gloves. It was basically like wearing a boxing glove. And I punched another kid. Simultaneously, he punched me. And then that was basically it. So I don't know. I don't know that that's going to be too interesting to you, Don.
Well, I was hoping to hear something along those lines. Unfortunately, I've experienced a great deal of violence in my life, and I was wondering the correlation of a caller that was saying the violence of video games would be detrimental to the advancement of childhood, as opposed to actual violence. And I'll take that off the air. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very interesting call. Yeah, right. I mean, interestingly enough, Lewis, very into violent video games, not really involved or experiencing real-world violence. And I'm sure the case could be made that being around real-world violence will much more significantly influence one than video game violence. I think as a general principle, that's probably true. Let's keep taking calls. 617-830-4750. Who is up next today?
My name's Ramon from the Bronx.
Ramon from the Bronx. I like it. Which are you, a 4-5 guy or a 2-3 train guy?
I'm a 2 and the 5 kind of guy.
Oh, 2-5. All right. Well, that's
Yeah.
that's a whole other group of people, Lewis. We'll talk about that on a different day. What can we do for you, Ramon?
So I had a question. If Donald Trump were to win and he were to be in office, do you think the Republicans in the House and in the Senate would go along with any of his crazy ideas at the detriment to them being maybe voted out of office in the midterms?
I think that there would be a split. I think that you would see the opportunists. If Trump wins very quickly, you will see just coming out of the woodwork the opportunists who want to make buddy with Trump. They won't love the crazy stuff Trump will try to do, but they will sort of couch it all as, hey, listen, we respect the office of the president and there are powers afforded to people in different positions and the Constitution, blah, blah, blah. And they'll just sort of try to cling on to, because the president has a lot of power. And if you're buddy with the president in some way, that could have benefits. There will probably be another faction that splits off and just really becomes obstructionist within the Republican Party while trying to get their policy passed, maybe with moderate Democrats, Lewis, working together in some way.
I don't know. I predict that the GOP Trump obstructionists are still going to have to put on that facade of being totally anti-democrat, and the Democrats are terrible, and might even continue to bash Barack Obama because why not?
Sure. Yeah. How do you see it,
Would
Ramon?
would that also mean that you would have maybe Ted Cruz's and other obstructionists like that even still go along with Donald Trump, even if they've had like their qualms in the past?
No, I see Ted Cruz as maintaining opposition to Trump throughout a Trump presidency. I don't know why. After what we've seen during the campaign, I'm not sure I see him as being the guy who jumps on the Trump bandwagon. But we will see, or hopefully, Ramon, we will not. Thank you so much for the call.
Yeah,
Always great to hear from people in the Bronx.
Thank you.
All right, take care, Ramon. 617-830-4750 is the number. We will take a couple more calls. Who's up next with us?
Hey, David, this is Andres Pino from Baltimore, Maryland.
What can we do for you?
David, I got to tell you, I'm a big fan of your show. I think you do a brilliant job analyzing the daily political news.
Thank you.
And I find it a useful tool. So, truly, I thank you and I thank Louis for his input over the time that I've been listening. And I'm really saddened to hear that Louis is leaving.
You're excited. Explain that. In what way?
Oh, no, forgive me. I'm saddened. I'm saddened.
Oh, I misheard. Louis, let's see
show.
if we can turn my headphone up just a tiny bit. I don't want to miss a word of this. You're saddened. I thought you said you were excited for a second.
No, I can't imagine anybody being excited by Louis leaving. And I'm actually a little jealous of the idea that Louis has this ability to just decide to pick up and leave because he's not happy with the area he's in. I find myself, actually, I'm from West Palm Beach, Florida.
Yeah.
Recently moved to Baltimore, and I moved for work because it was a better opportunity.
Yeah.
And here Louis is thinking, no, I'm just going to go try a new city because I feel like it, and whatever happens, happens.
Well,
I'm
listen,
jealous,
a
Louis.
lot
I
of
can't believe
people
you have
are
that
reacting
ability.
to the news in the same way you are, which is both confusion and jealousy as to how Louis has just decided that, hey, he's looking for warmer weather, he's looking for land, he's looking for acreage and growing his own food and who knows what else, and that's going to be his priority.
Well, that's it. Well, first of all, thank you, and thank you for listening and not calling me an idiot, which many people like to do. I have this, like, I don't know, maybe we can call it the Lewis Happiness Index, and it's just I've weighed everything, and I just don't think I can be happy here, and so I have to find some place where I can be happy, because that is what is most important to me. And if I'm not making as much money as I would like, I'd like to think that
Your parents will bail you out. Yeah.
no, I'd like to think that I can still be happy. So it's an experiment, really.
We say with peace and love that Louis is doing what he needs to do for the best Louis possible. And who could be angry about that, right?
Absolutely. I agree. I have to ask, is the anxiety not getting the better of you? Do you feel calm about your transition? Or do you stay up at night a bit worrying about how this transition will take place?
You know, all of a sudden, I'm having a very hard time hearing
It's
the
about
question.
my transition,
Okay.
anxiety about my transition. I think Dave has probably more anxiety about my transition than I do, because of course now we have new people here, and people have to learn the process, and it's I've been here for so long, it's just second nature, and so my transition luckily is going to be
Quite smooth.
and it's going to be pretty easy because my moving is going to be no problem. I don't even have my own furniture here. I don't deal with any of that. It's a short move. It's a short distance, and my parents are nice enough to put me up temporarily so that I don't have to scramble to find any place to live or anything like that.
And how temporary will that be, their hospitality, do you predict?
Well, to be determined.
Ah, okay. All right. On that note, thank you so much for the call. We do have to run, unfortunately. You are the last caller today, and I hope you'll keep calling in even in spite of your sadness about Louis leaving. I hope you'll call in again.
Well, Beak is a big fan. I appreciate that, Dave. Thank you. And Louis, I wish you the best of luck. I'm so glad I got the honor to tell you that personally.
Thank you so much.
All right. And on that note,
care,
we
guys.
will take a break. We still have a huge show coming up. And I don't know, was it just me, Louis, or did something very strange happen to that caller's phone line towards the end?
Oh, well, it's phones, cell phones.
Okay.
Digital noise stuff. Yeah.
All right. We'll take a break. Back after this.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
Today's classic interview is really straightforward in terms of what I discussed with Jonathan Metzl about 3.5 years ago. Mental health gun databases. Obvious, right? You create a database, it helps people not get guns. It helps to prevent people who shouldn't have guns from getting them. However, one lesser known aspect of those mental health databases are that they are incredibly racially tinged. And Jonathan Metzl joined me in February of 2013 to talk about that. Let's go back to that important topic. Joining me is Jonathan Metzl. He's the director of Vanderbilt Center for Medicine, Health, and Society. His last book, The Protest Psychosis, deals with how schizophrenia has become a disease associated with and overdiagnosed with black men. I want to talk about this, Jonathan, first kind of specifically your findings, and then later talk a little bit about the gun debate that's going on and how this may tie into these so-called mental health databases. So first, let's talk about the overdiagnosis part. Tell us about your research there.
Absolutely. So it's interesting for me that actually the two topics that you just mentioned overlap a great deal. The kind of central narrative of the book and of the research that I've been doing since the book looks at an interesting and troubling cultural phenomenon, which is the overdiagnosis of schizophrenia in African American men, which really started, according to data, in about the 1960s. It was interesting for me to find in my research that prior to the 1960s, we thought of schizophrenia as an illness that was most often associated with really docile white women. So in the 30s, 40s, and 50s in the United States, you would see movies and films and even hospital asylum wards where schizophrenia was a diagnosis that was applied to white housewives or women who were kind of troubled or in need of psychoanalysis or psychotherapy.
Is this an extension? Is this an extension of those ads that sometimes float around about how to deal with nervous women and hysteria and that type of thing?
That was totally part of that story. So at the time, people thought that schizophrenia was almost a neurotic or personality condition. There was a famous movie in 1948 called The Snake Pit with Olivia de Havilland, and it told a story of a kind of neurotic white woman who went crazy when she got married. And so there was this whole kind of cultural aura around the culture of psychoanalysis at the time that kind of sent the message not only that schizophrenia was an illness of white women, but also that schizophrenia was an illness of docility. And so a lot of times you would see these women as being kind of troubled or, as you mentioned, neurotic, but nobody was really afraid of them. There was no cultural discussion that, oh, people with mental illness might be violent or hostile or dangerous. And what I found was that all of a sudden in the 1960s, quite literally in a 5 or 10 year period, you see that all of a sudden, kind of out of nowhere, this real fear of mental illness. And part of what's happening is that there's a different association with schizophrenia, in which all of a sudden people started associating schizophrenia not only with angry black men, but also with violence at that time. And so all of a sudden in the 1960s and 1970s, you see a host of cultural representations that basically talk about angry black killers that are on the loose, or schizophrenic black men that want guns. There are FBI most wanted lists that all of a sudden start showing angry black men with schizophrenia. And so really what you see in this very brief period is this all of a sudden this association, a kind of change in the assumptions about the race and the gender of schizophrenia that really extend into the present day. And so one thing that I've been doing a fair amount of kind of conversations about the gun violence issue. And one thing I point out is that we didn't always think about people with mental illness in general and people with schizophrenia in particular as being violent. In a way, all these transformations happened in the 1970s, and they were linked to transformations in race as well.
So this is interesting when we talk more specifically about the gun debate that's going on now, because I had a conservative on the show a couple of weeks ago, and we were trying to kind of have some kind of consensus about what are effective ways of reducing gun violence. And then he was talking about, well, we need to really keep guns out of the hands of people who are most likely to commit violence with them. And he used a lot of what I considered to be kind of racially coded terms, including the children of single parents, urban areas, and drug related gun homicides and all these things, which speak very clearly to me with racial connections. And it's interesting that even the idea of a mental health database could be racially coded if you think that it's going to be it's going to overrepresent misdiagnosed schizophrenia in African Americans. Am I off on this?
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right about that. I would make two separate points about that. And one, let me just say that but before I even make any points about it, let me say that I don't think I can't be entirely critical of this association between mental illness and violence, because when we see these horrific crimes, like what happened in Newtown or in Colorado, or the string of horrific crimes that we've seen in Arizona, there is, I think, a justifiable human impulse to say that what's happening now is not sane, that in a way a normal person will not be doing this. And we struggle for words to understand what had happened. And certainly also in the incidents of a lot of these mass shooters, there are different kinds of mental illness histories. And so in that sense, I don't think that the rush to assume that there's a mental illness connection is entirely something that's entirely problematic, because it helps us make sense of what's happening here. At the same time, it's troubling for a couple of reasons. And one is that as an aggregate group, I think that the data on gun violence is really pretty unconvincing in terms of who's committing the crimes. And so even leaving the race issue aside, people with mental illness are far more likely to be the victims of violence rather than the perpetrators of violence. And this association that we need to fear the mentally ill is really kind of an inversion of what's happening in the real world, in which people with mental illness in violence in general, and also gun violence, are far more likely to be attacked because of a variety of reasons. And so one is that we're kind of promoting the stereotype of the violent, mentally ill person, when really reality does not bear that out at all. And the second point, as you mentioned, is that there is a racial component to this. And I say that because in the research I've done, I've looked at the 60s and 70s, and there was a different debate about guns at that time. There, all of a sudden in the 60s and 70s, people like Huey Newton and people in the Black Panthers and Malcolm X and other people, Robert Williams, a NAACP leader in the South, were arguing that African Americans needed to arm themselves in order to protect themselves against racist aggression. And so there were movements of, violence is as natural as cherry pie, and movements to arm Black people. And all of a sudden, white society started saying, no, that's mental illness, that we don't want Black people to get arms. And what they did was they passed the Voting Rights Act of 1968. The Gun Control Act of 1968. And so in a way, at that moment, there was this kind of fear, this racialized fear that tied into the gun debate at the time, and it led to a kind of association between guns and really Black protests.
Well, the double standard and the hypocrisy is also fascinating, because back then it was mental illness to think that you needed guns to protect yourself from racism. At the same time, now we have this entire group of individuals saying they need guns to protect themselves, in many cases from the possibility of a tyrannical government or of any other number of things. But nobody's bringing up that idea is mental illness. That's never suggested now.
No, and you made my point exactly. I think that's exactly the point, that what we see in the 60s and 70s is that when people like Huey Newton were saying we need guns, society was very comfortable at pathologizing what it called Black culture. In the present day, when we have shooters who are very often white, troubled white males, it's never, we need to blame white culture for that crime. It's always, this is a lone troubled individual, and the mental illness part plays right into it. We say, it's just this one person. It's not a cultural debate. And so really just the fact that these shooters are white and we have a very different cultural response, I think is part of the kind of, as you say, very strong double standard that we have here. A second point that I would make is that if you look at the recent Pew research, African Americans are far more likely to support gun control. It's upwards of 70%, far more likely than white Americans to support gun control. And so in a way, a lot of this NRA kind of talk is really being driven. It's very hypocritical to say that it's coming from inner cities and stuff like that, when people in the inner cities want gun control more than anybody, I think.
We've been speaking with Jonathan Metzl, director of Vanderbilt Center for Medicine, Health, and Society. The book is The Protest Psychosis. Jonathan, great to have you on. I want to have you back to talk about the next question, which is what will be actually the effect on gun purchases of these proposed mental health databases, but we'll leave that for next time.
Terrific. Thank you so much. I would love that.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
We have two very, very special presentations for you today because we are saying goodbye to producer Lewis, who is going to be moving on to warmer and less urban areas of the world, which has been determined to be a top priority in your next thing, so to speak. And the first presentation is something that has been produced by intern and segment producer John Anderson, who has been doing a heck of a job.
Heck of a job.
And it's talk to us, John, about what this is and how it got its name.
Bistrolinguistics. Well, it's a compilation of you and Lewis talking about food, which was clearly day one. I could tell that was something very near and dear to both of your hearts. And then when David told me to do that, I don't remember exactly where Bistrolinguistics came from. I was actually reading the Third Hitchhiker's book at the time, I believe, and they have that like bistro drive or whatever in that. So I think that's where it entered my head at first.
Quite a backstory to all of this.
So there was. I guess that's probably where it came from.
Yeah.
I just kind of categorized everything, threw them together, and it came out pretty good, I'd have to say.
All right, so with no further delay, I present to you the first part of our two-part special episode dedicated to Lewis. This is Bistrolinguistics, edited by John Anderson. Let's take a look. Lewis, would you describe yourself as a fan of peanut butter?
A huge fan. Yes, it's a great product, not just for putting on crackers or celery with raisins, but for cooking as well.
Love broccoli, not a fan of its white cousin, cauliflower.
But I'm a big fan of the duck too, Dave.
I miss the days of jelly beans, you know?
I am a fan. Yeah, I like jelly beans.
I am not a fan of kasha.
I'm a big fan of sushi, have been for a long time. I'm not a fan either. I do like cauliflower. Let's see, beaver butt glands.
The way I usually like epithelium is sprinkled with paprika and roasted over an open flame.
I won't eat a salad unless it's covered in bacon, crumbled cheese, and some type of extremely heavy cream-based dressing.
Yeah, a plain yogurt, a Greek yogurt, it is very high in protein.
Don't go crazy, Lewis. They're going to figure out that there's other stuff other than broccoli and quinoa around, aren't they?
A can of tuna with some other stuff, also very high in protein.
I was definitely a member of the Clean Plate Club.
Just tuna out of a can? That, to me, would seem incredibly unsavory.
I took pride in cleaning my plate.
I'll add some nuts and seeds.
You're a big boy. You finished all your food. That's great. And yeah, I am a big boy. Look what I finished all my food.
Everybody's familiar with Olive Garden, the horrible Italian-style restaurant that exists in the U.S.
So bad.
You're supposedly an Italian restaurant, and you're not salting the pasta water. This is just it's just a basic thing.
My pasta dish was supposed to have vegetables in it and stuff and peppers. There was 1 square of pepper.
That the food at Olive Garden is a disaster. It is overpriced.
It was not a consistency consistent with what we would call meat.
The pasta appeared to not even really be pasta. Milk and beans included.
Bagels are much worse than, let's say, a couple slices of healthier wheat bread.
5-pound bag or package of jelly beans, hot dog stuffed crust pizza.
Pizza?
Yeah.
Or
what's your favorite food? Burgers.
Yeah.
Hot dogs.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
And the hot dogs appear to be sort of, they're wrapped in crust, obviously.
Thin crust pizzas. One of my favorite pizzas is the margarita.
Miniature hot dog weenies.
I don't like the sausage or the pepperonis and those types of things on my pizza.
Going to Pizza Hut to get pizza, right? Which is heinous in and of itself.
Pizza Hut's, culinary abominations. I could blow them out of the water. Right. Some people make the green bean casserole. My family has never done that.
Dairy, bread, meat, fruit, vegetables.
We usually just make just plain green beans.
Fried chicken, watermelon, cornbread, and also collard greens.
I mean, you got your salad, like you said, your pumpkin pie, sweet potato pie, sometimes mashed potatoes.
Chocolate milk, frozen ice cream. They own the company that makes Laffy Taffy.
Which are fine. Put some gravy on that.
Frappa, Kappa, these huge mocha.
The stuffing should definitely have some apple in it.
Creamy tomato soup with fresh basil.
You've got the cranberry sauce, the squash, turkey.
Do not put the next bite on your fork until you've swallowed the current bite. It was probably a mess.
Yogurt's big in Greece, and it's the thick stuff, yeah.
I'm into every kind of dim sum there is.
For shrimp, peeled and deveined raw.
Like the whale I had, for example, was just like a steak. It was just like a slab of red meat.
One thing you can always do is when you walk into a restaurant, look at other people's sushi very closely before you order, and then you'll know.
It's perfectly acceptable to go right up to a couple that's eating and just put your face right up and see what the sushi looks like.
And I've had jellyfish.
Oh.
No, it's a good piece of fish. It'll just almost melt in your mouth.
Gotta love that chicken bone tissue, Lewis. Gotta love that. Crispy roasted chicken.
David, everyone loves fried chicken, except the people who are repulsed by meat.
Mechanically separated chicken. We've talked about tuna scrape.
Disgusting, gelatinous chicken.
What was the goal of a meal of fried chicken and watermelon? Olive oil, soap for the shower.
The avocado is going to add a lot to whatever it is I'm eating.
10 5-gallon tubs of coconut oil.
I do. I put chia seeds with nuts and usually some honey in the yogurt.
Potatoes. A hair in your soup, a fly in your potatoes. Brown the potatoes. I had a potato that was completely soft. So like I mentioned, we want to avoid the potatoes from getting brown.
Me personally, no, because I don't eat fast food.
Oh, okay.
I find that I need to speak up whenever I see someone eating fast food.
Really? My claim to fame is it's been about 14 years since I've eaten anything from a McDonald's.
Well, first of all, the food, it's not food. It's just not food. Everything they sell is complete garbage.
This incident doesn't make me any less likely to go to Taco Bell.
Taco Bell, where the food is just an abomination and people think that that's actual Mexican food. Basically, don't go to any McDonald's, of course. And the only people that are saying McDonald's is healthy or good are McDonald's spokespeople. Right?
Well, I think we can objectively say that McDonald's is crap.
Yeah. You pinch the top instead of the bottom. You get the whole thing that way, you know? Great. And then you just take the top off. That's it. You get the whole banana. See that? Lewis doesn't care, I feel like. This is really interesting, huh? I thought it was new. I mean, monkeys... yeah, monkeys have been doing it. Excuse me. Amazing, Lewis. I mean, an unbelievable summation of all of the different culinary discussions that have taken place on the show.
Yes, and in doing his research for this, John admitted that we have been very consistent over the years.
Did you find that, John, that there has not been flip-flopping on food-related matters?
There definitely has, and everywhere I looked, it was like McDonald's bashing and fast food bashing in general. I couldn't find any instance where one of you said you hated something and then came back and liked it.
All right. Well, I think for that we can all be proud.
Yes, it's masterfully done, John. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's now go in the second part of this amazing celebration of Lewis on the David Pakman Show to something that is truly, truly going to withstand the test of time, I believe. This is, John, we are going again to segment producer and intern John, who did the research and editing on this. Describe what we're about to see here. Is this the best of Lewis? Is that what you're calling this?
Well, I mean, it has competition in the manner that there's another video also titled that. But
purportedly.
But I do believe this one will stand the test of time, and I think this is where this is what sculpted his legacy. I was basically put in charge of Lewis's legacy. And, you know, a lot of people, their legacy, they're remembered for one thing despite doing many things, such as, like, Bill Clinton, maybe, comes to mind. And I basically decided that that one thing is what we should remember Lewis by, except there were, like, 3 or 4 of them that we're going to remember Lewis by. John's
explanation is completely clear to me.
I get it. I get it.
I understand everything he's saying. Okay, let's now go. This is the best of Lewis, including people commenting on Lewis's departure, including some of the most interesting comments regarding Lewis's departure. Let's all watch it together for the first time for many of us. Let's take a look. Where would you try to go and what job would you try to have? I like this question. Lewis, what's your thought on this?
I think I would like to be somewhere warm. So nowhere with rough winters. Producer
Lewis is going to be departing from the program.
City life is just not for me.
Many people don't want you to be part of the show. Many people don't want me to even be part of the show.
I also really don't want to deal with winter.
The David Pakman Show.
Most people just don't want the show to exist at all. I really do not like winter. If my kid sees a penis, it's or a nipple, it's all over.
Once you were choked with a belt by a stripper, right?
Yes.
I especially dislike his weasel-looking co-ho, Loris.
I really enjoy Patriot Mail, and I really like the repartee between you and your co-ho Lewis.
I may be a hoe. I don't know. But Luris, I don't know about that one.
Right-wing and bitter clinging proud clingers of our guns, our God, and our religion.
Wait a minute. How about word confetti?
The chemistry between him and David is big.
All right. There it is. David, a lazy Democrat who likes to mooch off the government.
You can see how much they enjoy doing the show together. It's really genuine.
Give me your analysis and critique, Lewis, of this latest creation of mine.
Fruity Loops vomit.
Yeah, I mean, he carried the show. Won't be the same without him.
What happened? I mean, was it just that your clothes did fit, and then you got pregnant, and then they stopped fitting? Really, it's just an appalling and vile display of cultural appropriation by David. I haven't seen Warcraft. It's getting slammed by critics and by people I trust. You're putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
You were like a level 102 healer, right?
Dave, stay out of this.
Lewis kept on saying I was a queer.
I did?
Yeah, he did.
I'm sure that there is some religious delusion as well.
Yeah.
But the primary motivating factor here was probably just butt touching.
What are you going to miss about Lewis? He was great about his thoughts. He was always very clear and concise.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
He never used filler words. He was always direct to the point.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, damn good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, yeah, I'm happy for Canada.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I like some curves.
So, Lewis, do you feel that it is degrading, that your participation in this endeavor is degrading to women?
Well, no.
Lewis is leaving?
That's like an automatic, inevitable, problematic conflict, I think.
Oh my God, he was so hot.
Believe me, there are plenty of women who find me quite resistible.
Oh my God, remember that time his shirt came off?
Now taking off his David Pakman Show hoodie. Oh, and his shirt is now over his head.
Honestly, I think the first thing I would do is try to make a friend in a morgue. When we first got to the studio, I tripped over a wire and have the body cremated. And I looked on the ground and I'm like, okay, well, nothing happened. I don't see anything wrong here.
Of course, then you're significantly opening yourself up to risk because now someone knows what you're doing.
That's true. But hey, money talks. We said, is everything good? She said, yeah, everything's good to go. We did the whole interview. You got to burn all the hair off the body. And while Dave could still hear the person he was interviewing, their audio was not recorded. And then the teeth, the fingernails and toenails have to come off. Listen, that whole 10, 15-minute interview we just did, well, it didn't really happen, and those have to be discarded separately in a place where no one can find them. And, of course, they're very small. Can we redo that again, please?
He had many great views on life.
I thought the rule was just I get the armrest.
If you're larger?
No, just no matter what. Like, it's just mine.
Really, the human experience as a whole.
If someone comes into your place and makes a mess, that's not good for anybody.
Yeah. I mean, if they defecate on the floor in your living room, just never have them over again.
I was going through some hard times, and seeing someone with such a positive outlook was a big help.
Still, every time I get on a plane, and every time there's turbulence, your mind goes to one place. Trick is, when you're in Vegas, and I've never been to Vegas, this is just what I've picked up. They say they love country music, which so many of them do. You go to a place where they will give you free drinks for sitting and playing at the slot machines, or they're wearing a cowboy hat in the picture. But
that's bad for you.
But they're not from or have ever been anywhere near where that would be necessary. The idea is that you get more drunk and you put more money into the machines. So you sit there, and once every 5 minutes you put a quarter in. I don't like that. It might not be a deal breaker because so many people love country music that how do you get away from that? But you hand your server a 20 and say keep them coming. It's not even country music anymore. It's really just pop. But
wow.
And then you get wasted very cheap, and you enjoy your night. They call it country because Southern accents and cowboy hats. More people liking the dog picture, however, which leads me to believe that people generally prefer dogs over babies, which I must say is true in my case. Find me one person whose mind has been changed as the result of a Twitter battle. After the EMP attack, you're probably going to want DVDs. I haven't used clippers on my nails in maybe a decade or more.
You know, between the two of them, I really think Lewis was the one who had a little bit more fun, if you know what I'm saying.
I have done shrooms once.
Whatever we were smoking must have had something else in it.
It was really more of a physical high than a psychedelic one.
There was one occasion where I was just bombed.
I didn't really care. I mean, maybe I should have done more.
Everything was moving in slow motion. I could feel no pain.
There was one time where I smoked so much pot and had a very small, low tolerance for it at the same time, that it was an incredibly paranoid state. Everything was moving in slow motion, and I could feel no pain.
It was coffee that I had poured my scotch into. So I guess you could call it a cocktail.
It's no coincidence the announcement comes around 4:20.
And I was just tricking myself into thinking I was having a good time and getting pretty drunk before even arriving. And I thought the cake was wonderful, so I just I went to town. Of course, I think I was drunk at that point already.
And it was one crazy evening, I think we can say for sure.
It was. There was alcohol involved. And we'll leave it at that. 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 And we'll leave it at that.
This job, it's great. I love it. I don't want to live in complete isolation. My family's here, and well, my friends are here. I enjoy doing the show.
Well, I would go with the tennis ball because I think it would just be easier to go about your daily life. Now, either way, you're going to be a freak.
And the grand
chemistry
finale.
between him and David is big. They've been friends since they were super young.
Right. The idea.
Now, what I have said is that if I accidentally had a kid,
Yeah.
I'd probably love the kid and then things would be great.
You would, if Lewis accidentally had a kid, probably he would love the kid, but he can't really say. That's the sense of it, isn't it, Lewis?
Right. Well, how can I say for sure?
Amazing, Lewis. And is that, would you say that is the peak moment to go out on? If I accidentally had a kid, I would probably love the kid, but you can't say for sure?
That's probably the moment, and I might call this, instead of the best of Lewis, the least worst of Lewis, but good stuff.
John, was there anything particularly disturbing that you came across that did not make it into this because it was just too shocking and appalling?
Yeah. Actually, this kind of is a little anecdote, I guess. Earlier this summer, Lewis sneezed, and I said "bless you" once, and then I found a video of him saying he absolutely hates it when people say "bless you," and right after I watched it, he sneezed, and it was really awkward silence. I was a little scared.
It's been an awkward summer semester for John Anderson, but absolutely fantastic work. I mean, it must be applauded.
Oh yes, no doubt. It's I couldn't have done a better job myself on the video.
On today's bonus show. Oh yeah, John, go ahead.
So
what?
I said, according to the video, you're dead. So
I couldn't work on it at all.
On the bonus show today, we will allow things to calm down. We will talk about an $800 Lord of the Rings box set and how many of those Lewis will be purchasing on his way out today. Comcast has purchased DreamWorks, and some ultra-Orthodox rabbis have banned women from college, which is a pretty common thing in the most extremist areas of most religions. You certainly don't want educated women if you want to maintain control as men over the population. DavidPakman.com/membership. That's how you sign up.
The David Pakman Show at DavidPakman.com.